Hey guys, welcome into cancelthisshow.com. Vic Faust, Megan Marie Barrett's back from her world traveling in Paris. But it is interesting. I've never heard anybody go to France in Paris. You know, I really don't like Paris.
Really?
No, you're the first, but that's fine. At least you're honest.
Yeah, I didn't like it the first time I went.
But you looked good from the shot that you had with us from whatever
you.
hotel you were at. That looked awesome.
Hey, I mean, I had a great time. Don't get me wrong. It's just not my first choice of a place to go.
Totally get it. We love Eric Johnson when Eric Johnson was filling in a whole bunch. And Eric would be with us again today, normally on a Thursday, but we've got another guest for a little bit that we're going to have in studio. So forgive the music. Can you turn that off, Joe, that I had kicking? I had the backdrop music today. It's like I'd have to talk like this. I've got way too much energy for that music. Pro Joe in the house as well, getting everything done. Coming up on the show today, Kamala Harris is still trying to figure out who she is. She goes from one show to the next show to the next show saying, I am Joe Biden. I'm not Joe Biden. I do believe in what he did. I don't believe in what he did. You'll hear the sound himself. Donald Trump with some powerful speeches in the last 2 days as well since we were on. Plus, unfortunately, Hurricane Milton doing all kinds of damage. I've never seen parts of Florida like I see it now. Miami underwater. I mean, like, you've got to be kidding me, the things that are going on. And in the research from the show that we did the other day, which was so damn popular that government can control weather. I know it sounds crazy, but guess what? I found sound from 2016, our own former CIA director admitting in a press conference, yes, the government controls weather and it's a great thing. It's like, oh, okay, fantastic. So we'll get into that. Other things that you guys want to bring up to date, you always do on the chat line. But I wanted to bring in a guy, Alex Zimianik. He's the CEO of JZ Vacation Rentals. He's an REI consultant as well. We try to bring you guys the best interviews that we possibly can. And what's interesting about this is the fact, and he'll explain it, we've talked about squatters. And we've talked about people coming into this country thinking that they own this country, that law does not apply to them, business owners who are busting their ass, doing everything they possibly can to have the American dream. And then you have other people who come and try to steal it. And if that's not bad enough, then there's situations where you actually have police departments. And we're big supporters of police. But a lot of times police don't know. They're overworked. Sometimes they get lazy. And sometimes just uneducated on what they should be freaking doing. Well, we bring in Alex. Alex, good morning. Thanks for coming in and talking with us today. Your story and what's happening, we hope will open up some eyes for people about what can be done in a negative way to somebody and what can be done in a positive way to correct the problem. So if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into what the hell happened to you and where that situation stands now, because not only is this a situation, a story for people in, let's say, the St. Louis area where you're from, but this is a story for people nationwide.
It really is, because it differs in each city and each state. So yes, for starters, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. This is a really cool setup you have.
Thanks, bud.
Just to give you a quick background. So I started in real estate in 2008, surprisingly not, during the crash. So I got lucky and rode that wave to the bottom before I first bought into real estate. So I started out more on the investment side, buying, holding, flipping, a lot more on the construction, rich dad, poor dad kind of approach. Fell into what is more known as the Airbnb model, the short-term rental, vacation rental model, when I had an extra set of furniture. And that's how I got into the whole business with news of my son about 11 years ago. So 11 years ago, there's 300 short-term rentals here, or Airbnbs in St. Louis. There's not that many. There wasn't much legislation then. Nobody even knew what to do with it. And we're still dealing with a little bit of that today, 11 years later. But just to give you a little bit of the high level perspective. So then there was 300, now there's 3,800. So our goal, as a professional company, we started out with one, as I mentioned. Now we have 14 state territory. We're only luxury homes. We manage 60 homes in Missouri and Colorado, but the bulk of the homes we market, and they're all luxury. And we wanted to become more of a brand, not just a company that is similar to what you see in the hotel industry. If you're looking for a Four Seasons or you're looking for a Marriott, whatever that brand of choice is, you know you can find that consistency. So we deploy a whole lot of technology, and we've worked with the city a lot over the years to combat and find ways to find fair regulation. I just met with an alderman a few months ago when they passed the most recent bills. So legislation wise, no more concerns in the city. They accept it, and that's been a battle for us. Now it's more on taxation. Then you run into, once we're past banks accepting short-term rentals, the legislation accepting or city officials accepting short-term rentals, then you work with the guest and loopholes that a lot happened after 2020. 2020 happened, everything shut down so immediately, and Airbnb became a party home. That is how you throw a nightclub, is you book an Airbnb. We had to find all of these different ways to block and screen, and we deploy about 30 different technology systems to keep a bad guest out of a home. That's how much we care about the city. We want to support, and we've typically, before I get into this story, typically what happens if we have, let's say, a guest breaks our house rules, they start throwing a party, we get noise alerts, we have all these things to monitor this. When that happens, if a party gets out of hand, if it happened to be a fraudulent guest before we had the tools to screen that out, 99% of the time that ends up in gunshots, that ends up in something really bad if we don't shut it down. So we have worked with the city, and I agree with you. I support the police, and I have loved my relationship with the police department for the last 10 years until a recent situation happened. But normally what would happen if we have to do an eviction, a guest in an Airbnb or a short-term rental is treated just like a hotel guest. If they're there for only 14, they have to be there for 14 consecutive days before they'll be considered a tenant or have tenant rights. Usually that's why we don't have a lease agreement, we have a rental agreement. So typically what happens if there is an immediate eviction, which is in our rental agreement, if they break the house rules, there's a party, whatever that is. The police department taught me a long time ago to call them, report it to the non-emergency line that you have a guest and a renter that is renting through short-term rental. They've only been there for a few days. They broke the rules. They have to go. And they will come out and do an immediate eviction. They said, tell us that they're now trespassing, and we'll come remove the person that is illegally occupying the home. So for the last, I'd say 5 years, that's what we've done. If we ever have an issue, we call them, and that's what they do. So then recently, to get into the story of what's happened, where I've learned a whole lot about squatters' rights and what people can really do and what they can get away with. And so unfortunately, we had the situation is we had a guest booked one of our homes in Southwest Gardens, beautiful area right next to Botanical Gardens. It's a great neighborhood. And the guest went through a third-party site. It was not our site. It wasn't Airbnb. It wasn't Verbo. And they booked with an electronic check, an e-check. We don't allow e-checks for the reason of what happened. And this happened on August 24th, booked a reservation on August 27th. This $5,000 charge for a 29-day stay bounced. We had a non-sufficient funds alert our account. So we immediately, just typical protocol, contacted the guest, tried to work with the guest, try to find a way to get them paid. The guest gave us all kinds of stories, let us know. Long story short, she'd be up within a couple days to make a payment, cashier's check. Well, didn't show up, of course, no shocker. And we had to start the immediate eviction 5 days later, because this would now be on the 29th, to get the guest out.
How many guests were there?
There was one guest that booked the accommodation, and then she ended up having 4 others that were with her the entire time. So it took us from the 24th to the 11th to get them out. And typically it's one phone call to the police department. They show up. We give them the paperwork. We show them our rental agreement, not a lease agreement. Very, very important. If you're hosting Airbnbs, you have to change that verbiage because everything is about tenant rights. And a guest typically does not have tenant rights until 14 days. Some states say 30 days. So Yes. So then what happens? We call the police. A sergeant comes out, sergeant and his lieutenant. I send a technician there since we've been through this a lot. I wanted him to have everything ready. He had everything electronic, the NSF proof, the rental agreement, what it states, what she signed, everything. Shows up to the house. Instead of talking with our technician, the sergeant walks up to the door, knocks on the door. She gives him the original contract that says that it was paid. And that was enough for the police officer to basically just shut the whole thing down and not want to talk to us at all.
And they stayed.
And they stayed. And he told me over the phone, because I called him. He said, "I'll look at your paperwork, but she's showing me that she's paid in full." I said, "I understand what she's showing you from the 24th. 3 days later, it bounced, and I have it all there for you to see." And so he tells me that he'll pull it up and he'll look at it with a tech and call me back if he has questions. Gets off the phone and immediately rushes to the car. My technician said he didn't even give him 1 second. Just said, "We don't have enough time for this, and we're leaving. Call
And
us
this was
back
St.
if you
Louis
have your
City
stuff."
Police?
This was South Patrol too, yeah, and South Patrol in St. Louis City. And so then my tech tells me this, and I'm just shocked, honestly. And so then I send a supervisor out there. I'm remote, or I'd be out there myself usually. And so I send a supervisor out there with everything printed. He had everything ready. Her ID. We do a very advanced screening system, something that a city would never require. And we deploy all this technology, like facial recognition technology. We're trying to prevent these type of guests. This particular guest came in a back door through an e-check, and somehow it's just a tech mistake. So we send somebody back out. My supervisor's there. It's printed. The same sergeant, call him back. They come back out. He looks at it for maybe less than 30 seconds and leaves again. And he didn't care to look at any of the paperwork.
Same officer?
Same officer. And he's the supervisor.
And how many days later is this, the second time?
This is the same day, later on that day.
Okay.
Just because we knew the urgency of this, like every day that they're in there.
So they're staying and they haven't paid.
They haven't paid. They're staying there. Now we know it's no longer a payment situation, that they were professionals. They were very good. She knew her rights. She was now taunting me because the police officer had now been there, and to what it looks like from my perception, it looks like they're siding with this criminal and the place. And I had explained to him over the phone. I said, "Officer, I don't know if you are aware of this, but if she's only been there a few days, she doesn't have the same tenant rights. It's not a civil case. This is a criminal matter." So anyways, he didn't like the last part. He said, "We got to go through the court system." So that at this point, I had already been on the phone with my attorney, and $5,700 later, we were able to uncover a new statute, which is also part of the reason why I'm here, because if there's any of your listeners that list on Airbnb or are going to, or host, or property management, this law just came out a week after we needed it to come out. So
really?
We just found it, and we were the second ones. My attorney told me we were the second ones in the courtroom to file it and to act on it. So it's a statute that, instead of going through a formal eviction, because you should not have to do that with an illegal occupant or a short-term rental guest. But if in the event that you have to, this is another way to do it, where it's an ex parte order is the statute, which is more of a restraining order that they can be served, and then the court and judge is supposed to hear it within 24 hours of that being filed. Instead of this dragging on for 2 to 3 months or longer, it can happen a lot faster.
My gosh. As you're explaining the story, we also have some video. If you can explain what the video is, we'll show what you sent us in regards to explaining or showing our viewers what's going on here.
Yes. So what you see here, this is outside the entrance, middle of the night. This is, probably 2, 3 in the morning. This is them actively trying to break into the basement. The part that bothered, I think, us and our team the most. And
why were they trying to break into the basement if they're already in the house?
Great question. There's 2 tenants upstairs, one being a female that has been with us since we originally bought this building over 7 years ago. First tenant. It's a long-term tenant. Just talked to her a few days ago. She's still having some PTSD from this. They were trying to break in and get it to the upstairs tenants. We have them for safety reasons, this exact reason. We have it segmented in the basement where there's walls built. The tenants and the guests are not supposed to run into each
So
other.
this
There's 2
property they're
tenants
trying to
upstairs.
break in is one that they live in because I see them coming in and outside, but they're trying to
Yeah.
break. Do they not have access to the basement?
They do not have access to the basement.
Okay.
So that set of stairs right there is a side entrance. That's the entrance, one of the entrances to the entire main level. That's 1,600 square feet. The upstairs, this used to be a 4-family building and we converted it. And now it's 2 separated units that have their own entrance that go up to these single units upstairs, unfurnished.
So those are 3 of
long-term,
the people
traditional.
right there.
Those are 3 of the 5. As you see, just roaming around outside. The neighbors had contacted the police when they get real loud. They're basically just doing drugs all night. I mean, that's all they're doing drugs all night, pointing a flashlight up at our tenant's window. And that's the stuff that was scaring us more than the money or the damage or whatever. We've already remodeled the place. It's just, this $25,000 incident that happened. It was so much more about the safety of the tenant that I, again, just talked to the other day. So we get to finish where I left off. So basically, the officer is not willing to do anything, so we go through the court system. We get all that filed. We find what we're supposed to do. In the meantime, I know I'm going to rack up some serious bills. So we start looking to see, does she really have a job? Like, what can we find out about this individual that booked our
That's
home?
where I was going. Where, could you have said to the officer, why don't you do a background check on this girl? Or because
it gets
obviously
worse. It gets so much worse.
Oh my gosh.
So we did that. We did all the police work here. And so basically, I called my office manager. My office manager calls me back within 10 minutes and says, Alex, you will not believe this. She has 2 warrants out for arrest and large judgments. Clearly, we're not getting a dime back. So I know that no matter what, I'm eating all the legal. But it is what it is. We just want to get her out. And so,
and how many days has she been there now at this point?
This would have been this video playing here, I think was the 4th or the 5th when that started happening.
4th or 5th of what?
4th or 5th of September, and she booked on the 24th. We found out about the NSF around the 27th. So yeah, we're talking a couple weeks now.
Okay, so a couple weeks. And how long did she initially want to rent your Airbnb?
29 days.
29. And why? Yeah. What was did she
went
say
right
why?
under the 30-day mark. She was saying that she was remodeling, doing something to her home. She had an address here in St. Louis. It was also a 314 number, which is something we normally do not allow unless it's a midterm, long-term reservation. It has to be an exception. We used to offer local bookings, and after 2020, that has never been worth it. It's very rare that somebody books something locally, unless it's for a long extended period of time and they're doing something to their home. That makes sense.
Okay. And so let me just get something clear. So How many bedrooms is this home?
It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath.
Okay. And so did she initially just say it was going to be her? Did she have children?
Yes.
So it was she said it was going to be her.
Just her. And the moment she shows up with 5, that's a breach of our house rules in its sense. If they go over the noise volume, that's a breach of the house rules. There's so many different things that we'll put in there, and most people do. And the second you do, they sign for an immediate eviction if those house rules.
My gosh, so they're in there for a couple of weeks now. What do you do now?
So now, we find out about these warrants, and I was actually on my way to the lake, the Ozarks, and I got this call. And so I'm thinking this is the perfect opportunity because it's not just the warrants now. Now we have these videos. Now we have them actively trying to break in the house. We have them pointing flashlights up at our tenant. We have them stealing her packages that for her birthday, which we retrieved later, but stole her packages off the porch. And so I called the police. I explained this. I got a different police officer, and he calls me on the way there I explain the warrants, explain the vandalism. Now we have a lot more criminal things and a video to be able to show we have active criminals doing drugs in the house. This is not good. We need to get them out. Once again, they don't have tenant rights. So this officer,
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
but
go for it.
The tenant that now has PTSD, did she call the police herself and say?
She did.
And what happened with that?
So her calling the police is coming up. So basically, this officer calls me, loves the plan of going to make contact with her. If she actually has warrants, he said, I'll detain her. I'll handcuff her. I'll run her. I'll have her ID. I'll run her. And if so, I'll call my sergeant. We'll bring her in. And then you got to have somebody ready to board all this up, whatever. So he does that. He goes over there and he calls me back and he goes, Alex, I don't have the best news. And he's like, to be honest, I am extremely shocked right now. So I made contact. It was her. I ID'd her. I handcuffed her. She's detained. There's 4 other people in the home. And he goes, and I called my sergeant. My sergeant calls the original sergeant, the one that's basically blew us off in the very beginning. And they instructed him to stand down and let her go back.
Sergeant within the St. Louis City Police Department?
Yes. Yes.
And why? Why is that?
That question is why I'm here and why we reported him to internal affairs. I mean, there's something
he should be reported.
Interesting going on. And I don't know. I don't know why. Because that question, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you side with this individual? And especially
because warrants out for their arrest.
Exactly. That's the
2
point.
warrants.
This is not good for St. Louis City Police. This is a terrible representation of St. Louis City Police, and they need to step up. That's bullshit. And we are big believers and supporters of police all over the place. But to put you and people in a situation like that and allow these criminals, and God knows if you even had illegals in there.
Well, and here's one other thing too that happened right before that I skipped over. So once the first 2 attempts failed with this sergeant, then I called one of my lead maintenance techs, been with me for 7 years. He knows every property up and down. I said, can you please go install exterior cameras in the rear and the front? Well, we want to look at the parking lot. We need eyes because the poor girls upstairs, I'm scared for them now. And we need eyes. We need to know what's going on. My whole team's up till 4 a.m. almost every night watching these videos and cameras.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
And so when he gets there, he brings a tech with him, someone else. So there's a witness just in case. And the moment he puts a ladder out, she calls 911. And the same sergeant shows up and handcuffs my employee. And so I get a phone call from an unknown number, and I answered it. And it's a sergeant, and my employee's in handcuffs, and he is on speakerphone. And I'm like, officer, can you please explain to me why you detained my employee? And he said, because I got a call from the lady at this address that you guys are destroying her personal property. And I'm like, okay, did she show you?
Are the police just, and
she doesn't have personal
she doesn't
property
have any
there.
personal
for
property.
lack of a better term, are the police just, I'm going to be kind, uneducated, or are they lazy, or is there something nefarious going on?
So that today, after calling the old captain, who is a really nice guy, Diva, that was over this district.
I met him.
He's a friend. So I contacted him. We talked,
but he didn't have anything to do with this.
He's retired.
No way. That guy is amazing.
He told me, he goes, Alex, I've been there for 30 years, and I won't say the sergeant's name now, but he said if he was under me, he'd be let go because what he is doing, there's something more to it.
This is a microcosm of what's going on in our country.
It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. The other part is I did some digging, and there was never a police report ever. And they were out to the home for 3 or 4 weeks, multiple visits. Nobody ever filed
I'm a
police
cop in
report.
St. Louis, I'm pissed at hearing what's going on my own department.
That's the officer.
Shame on St. Louis City Police. Yeah.
He was amazing. He was amazing.
I'm glad to hear that.
Zolkowski. He was great. And he was very helpful. And so my employee got handcuffed. When I talked to the officer, I said, I'm on the way. I'm now not that far, so I would be there, and he better not be.
Yeah, I want to hear this. I want to hear how he justified this.
When I started asking him questions, I said, no disrespect, but did you verify anything? Like, there's a criminal in our house. What's going on. The situation. He's not new to this situation. So for him to just show up, not ask any questions, and detain my employee who's leaning against the tree. He's a 65-year-old harmless man. He's not threatening. He's not armed. There's no reason to handcuff him, but he did. And when I asked him these questions, he dropped the phone and left. So he never even responded to me, didn't give me the time of day. I show up, he's already gone. And we finished installing all of the cameras. And then that's when we started to get footage like this. And so then after, the other part, so where the story really starts to get worse is, so all the vandalism, all of these things are continuing to happen. We're seeing them still trying to break into the upstairs. That's when the tenant, to answer your question, calls in. And at this point, the property is flagged as a nuisance property. And that was like an off-camera quote from somebody. And so basically, anytime you call 911 or anything, they don't want to dispatch anybody.
Yeah.
And so she did call 911. And while they're actively trying to break in downstairs, they did get in the basement. They broke in through the window, and we had her side, secured and on the other side. So they broke into her side and was trying to actively break in to get upstairs. And the police told her they did dispatch the same officer that I like that's been helpful. He came out and he told her, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. Like, you need to go buy a gun if you feel unsafe. And if they actually kick your door in, shoot them. That was the advice. And
nice job, St. Louis City Police.
What?
Yeah, right. And I can understand, you just said that it was flagged a nuisance, property. And they do. I mean, they've got a million things going on down in the city, day in, day out.
Defunded.
Yes, exactly. And they're low on bodies.
Yep.
But the fact that an officer took the time to come to the nuisance property, handcuff the wrong person, and basically justified the phone call from this woman I see as a criminal. She is a criminal. She's got 2 warrants out for her arrest. And she bounced a check to you.
Yep.
And so I'm watching these videos, and she's trying to get into areas that she should not. So is there trespassing? Is there breaking and entering?
We had it all. But it gets so much worse.
What else happened then?
All of this happened. So we finally get this ex parte filed. Okay. And then it was filed on like a Thursday. They're supposed to hear it on a Friday, and they did within 24 hours. Obviously the judge granted it. The judge, apparently her mouth was dropped looking at her bailiff, hearing this story from my attorney. Why did we think that this was a civil case, is what she was saying. So that tells me right there that if the judge knows, not all the officers know. So sometimes it is education. Some do, some don't, which is why we're trying to educate and make sure, because the old captain for 30 years said, that they, for the last 10 years, have always treated short-term rentals just like a hotel or a Drury Inn. If somebody doesn't pay their bill, they're getting removed. Or if they break the rules, they get removed. So what happens when we finally get the sheriffs? It took them 3 or 4 days when it was supposed to be 24 hours to remove. I had to call them every day to get the sheriffs finally to bump it up. They had it scheduled. We meet them on a Wednesday. This is now the 11th, the day we finally got them out. It took 3 hours with the sheriffs there because they had so much stuff in this home. They had every intention of living there for a good 60 to 90 days.
No.
They moved all their stuff in. 6 major travel bags outside. And there's still probably 7 to 8 more and all kinds of junk to go through. And so as we're going through things, we're finding obviously drugs. There's gun casings. There's all kinds of stuff. But the most alarming, so the sheriffs want to leave. They're so ready to get out of there. I'm doing a video and they're yelling at me for videoing. They were not supportive whatsoever.
The sheriff, St. Louis City Police.
The sheriff, not the police, but the sheriff's office, that literally their only job is to show up and get people out of there. They don't arrest anybody. Nobody ever gets handcuffed. They don't even take their information. So how could we even charge them if we don't get their information? Luckily, they left it all behind. But when the sheriffs are going through there, they're like, we got to go, but they're still outside. We're
so disappointed.
But isn't that your job?
It is their job.
I don't trust. I can't leave. If
so
you
disappointed.
Leave. They're like, well, we're sorry. They're outside. They're saying they left a cell phone in here. They would not leave, and they kept lying and making up excuses. We didn't know this at first, but they kept saying they left something in the home. So sheriff's like, can we just get them this cell phone? We're looking around for something. Do we owe them anything? No. But do we want them to leave? Yes. So we're looking for it. There isn't a cell phone. Then it turned into a bag. And finally, sheriff's like, look, we got to go. So they left. And then I'm inside. I'm taking videos. I'm taking notes, whatever. I hear one of the guys that was served, one of the 5, yelling at and getting confrontational with my maintenance tech, same one that got handcuffed. And I hear this. I run outside. I step in the way, and I got 911 on the phone. And then Zolkowski is the first one to arrive, which is the officer that was trying to help me from day one. And he shows up. A detective happened to show up, which was helpful. And he tries to give a bag back to the tenant. We did have to correct him, make sure he searched the bag and actually went through it before he handed back a bag of drugs or cash or whatever. That's neither here nor there. But by the time he got back in from handing him this so-called bag they've been waiting 2 hours for, we dumped an entire pile of credit cards, IDs, birth certificates, blank checks, one of the checks that hit us, and journals and notes. They were big time professional identity fraud. Massive counts.
They're journaling
What they're going to do. They had all of these like names in order. And so luckily a detective was there because nobody knew what to do with that. And we're finding this again. We did all the police work. So then he comes runs outside while still, they're all still there, just hanging out. No one's getting arrested or anything. And asks the detective what to do. He comes back in with a bin. We hand him everything we could dump in. And we had gun cases and all this other thing, drugs. And they're like, no, we don't need any of that. We just want this identity. So that was the first time he called back in, told him to change the distress call to an actual police.
Oh my gosh. And it took over 3 weeks.
Took over 3 weeks.
Have you had any issues since?
They tried to come back once because we did not have all of their trash and junk yet. We spread it out amongst the entire alley of dumpsters. Yeah, I mean, they know I got a couple calls from the neighbors too. The neighbors are extremely frustrated, not at us. We have a great relationship with them, but with the city, because apparently they pay extra in this area for more police support.
Oh gosh.
So not only are they paying extra, we're not getting police support.
So they didn't get arrested.
Nobody got arrested, but apparently once they make their case, which can take however long, they're looking at 5 years prison minimum. But the cases definitely took a turn. Apparently, it's now a federal thing. I can't get into too much, but it turned out to be a lot worse than what that first officer blew off.
So, what advice would you give to people? I hope your story gets even more coverage.
I would say so. My advice is that, one, we got to make this known. I'm going to continue to be working with city officials. I tried to call the new captain, because I can call the old captain on his cell phone. The new captain instructed whoever I spoke to as cadet, they do not talk to the public. So you can't even call. How do you report a sergeant if you can't talk to his boss? You can only talk to sergeants or lieutenants. You can't talk to captains. That would be my advice is for anybody that rents a property. If you rent a short-term rental, I will send the actual statute. Maybe you can put it in the chat, or I can before I leave. We could put it somewhere so you have a quick reference of where this is. The majority of what I paid was finding this statute. So if anything, I can save somebody a whole lot of time, because if you have this prepared, ready in a template, you can get somebody out in days. But if we really just look at the law, or maybe true up the law, the way it's written online right now is it's 14 days before they become a tenant rights. And in most cities and states, it's 30 days.
Dang. That's
okay.
great.
So let me ask you a question.
Of course.
So the police advised your other tenant to shoot somebody. If somebody comes and tries to break in and they come in through the door, shoot them.
That's
correct?
Basically what he said. If you feel that unsafe, you either have to leave or go purchase a gun. And that way you have a gun in case they kick your door in. They're trying to kick the door in the basement first. And that's what she's hearing. And she's like, so by the time they kick in my door, I need to call you back then. I think that's a little too late.
Yeah. Okay. So here, I'm trying to get my mind around this, because this is just unbelievable to me. These people that do this kind of crap. It's just, I mean, they have no shame.
No.
I mean, she's a criminal. She's got 2 warrants out for her arrest, bouncing checks to you. So if it's your property, correct? You own the property, or your group does.
Yeah. This is actually a property that I'm an owner. It's actually my mom's property that owns it, and we manage it. I used to own it. We bought it. But majority of the properties we manage.
So hypothetical situation. So let's say your mom, she's the owner. It's, her name's on the papers. It's her property. So your mom goes to, if she wants to spend the night, it's her property. She can do whatever she wants. So if she were to go into her property and she felt that someone was breaking and entering, or she felt like her life was in danger, does she have the right to go into her property, into her home with a gun and if there are people there that do not belong there, because at this time it's out of the time. Am I right that the time that she thought that she was renting?
Well, the problem is that the squatters' rights, which I'm getting a whole lot of you get a whole lot of conflicting information when you ask attorneys or read it online. I don't think St. Louis has done a good job of making it clear, which is why I try to work.
Yeah, they haven't.
I try to work with the city officials.
Why do squatters have rights? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Unbelievable. It is unbelievable. They shouldn't have rights. So right now, someone can go to any of our homes and break in.
Exactly.
And by the time we get home, they have rights to stay there, and we can't do a thing.
This is the most backwards thing I have ever heard in my entire life.
Mind-boggling.
I just squatters' rights.
Yeah.
Who came up with that? Who came up with rights for people to go into your home and not leave?
A squatter, most likely.
Well, how can people get in contact with you if they have questions regarding anything that goes on here, maybe one of your properties? You do coaching when it comes to real estate because you've done all kinds of things. I just want to make sure that people understand, first of all, everything that you did deal with. I mean, we're sorry for that. You're a smart guy with a big heart. How can you help people, or how can they contact you if they have questions?
LinkedIn is usually the best and fastest. You can also email me, alex@jzvacationrentals.com. If you go on my website, you'll see that I have contact forms and ways to schedule time. But yeah, I've done coaching, as you mentioned, for the last decade. I did it for free for a long time just to help, because teaching is a passion of mine, but also we have a nonprofit, JZ Gives Back, which was a lot more of education that doesn't make money, but it's for educating the city, working with legislators, working with other hosts. We used to do a lot of meetups. So if you're an investor and you need help, or you just ever need to unpack whatever that is, or learn legislative tips, I'm here for you. You can reach out anytime.
Alex, we appreciate your time. Alex, it's crazy to think what you went through. Alex Zimianic, the CEO of JZ Vacation Rentals, and we're showing that on the video for you as well. JZVacationRentals.com, JZVacationRentals.com. From the chat line, you can take a look at it later. People saying, you did a great job with the best that you could possibly do, and applause for dealing with what you did, and of course bringing a lot of this to light. So we appreciate it, my friend. Thank you again. And if anything else is coming up that we need to know about, let us know.
We'll do.
Yeah, we'll get you on the show as much as we need to. My
Absolutely.
gosh.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Alex, we appreciate it. My gosh, imagine going through some of that stuff. I mean,
it makes me
imagine it was your property. What you'd be doing.
It makes me so mad that's what I'm thinking about this entire time. Is I'm thinking in my mind, what would I do? And how these people who are they? Like, where do they come from? And why do they think that they can just show up and just go and say that they're going to rent and then not leave? It's just unbelievable. Well,
we try to bring you those stories when we can. Once again, we'll continue to bring you stories like that. This is cancelthisshow.com. Vic Faust, Megan Marie Moret, Pro Joe in the house as well. It is interesting as we, figure out everything that's happening. It's part of what we see with our politics. It's part of who's in charge of things. And it gets into the whole bigger perspective of what's happening with our country when it comes to elections and who you vote for, not just for president, but for Senate, any position in Congress, when it comes to City Hall, those sorts of things as well.
Well, and here's the thing too, is this is just a small part of what is going on in our country. It's everyone else seems to have rights except for the hardworking Americans, citizens. I mean, everyone else seems to have rights. The illegal aliens, they have rights. They have taken our FEMA funds almost to a point where we have state after state now that needs help, and we simply don't have it. Mayorkas, he's trying to stepping back what he was saying about that, but it's too late. He already said it, but it just goes right along with this. All of these people have all of these rights, and they shouldn't. And I have a really hard time understanding it.
It's not just this, but Megan, the other part of this is it just shows you where people are. It's like, oh, well, we feel bad for the criminal. We're going to take care of them. It gets back into the whole situation of, you know what? There are rights and laws for a reason. There is a border for a reason. We need IDs for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things are happening for a reason. Joe, we're going to move.
I'm moving.
Yeah. So these are the things that can happen. And it brings us into some of the things that we have seen happen over the last couple of days since we did our last show. Case in point, the person who's running for president, Kamala Harris. We're just tired of being lied to. We're tired of having lie after lie, cheat after cheat, snake after snake come in to our lives, showing us everything that can happen. And part of that gets into the fact that just be who you are, stop lying to us, and then let people decide who they are, what they want, what they plan on doing from a perspective of that standpoint. Case in point, this, and I'm sure people saw this, but from 2 days ago, Kamala Harris, literally with an opportunity. She's all over media now doing interviews because she wasn't doing any interviews. But now we continue to see different accents. We'll show you that. Now we got another new accent. We have her saying that she is a part of Joe Biden. From The View, literally her first interview out of the gate after she did the Call Her Daddy podcast. She's not doing any serious interviews.
No, nothing.
Then she went on Howard Stern, and Howard Stern is one of the most racist men I have ever seen in media ever. And we'll show you why. He is racist as it, and a Jewish man making fun of black people for years and years and years without any apologies, without any public apologies or videos. Bad. And we'll show you that in a second. But listen to what she said the other day. It's so important just to remember. She literally is Joe Biden. And she said it in this interview on The View.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had.
If anything.
You guys, this woman is, she cannot speak without a prompter or without a script to save her life. She cannot even answer a simple question, whether it's on The View or 60 Minutes or Howard Stern or wherever she is. She cannot answer a question and make it make sense for anything. So when, they have tried so hard when they first announced that she was going to take over, that they were going to just slip her right on in Biden's spot to run for the presidency. They kept her separate from him. They kept her hidden. They kept her in dress rehearsal for everything because they wanted to make sure that everyone knew that she was her own person. She was going to do her own thing, but you can't take her away. Especially the other day, you've got Joe Biden saying, we sing from the same song list. Did you guys see him doing all this stuff? We are together. We are bounded and we are binded and we do everything together. And now she has an opportunity and has had an opportunity for the last couple weeks in all of these different interviews to make sure that people know that she has a different plan moving forward, because her and Joe Biden's administration has been a disaster through and through, from the economy to the border to foreign affairs, you name it, it has been a disaster. She's not taking the opportunity because she's not different. She is the same goofy left liberal progressive Democrat that he is. And she's ruined it for herself.
It's a concern. And then she had her accent. Here's another new accent. We've heard Latina accent, we've heard Detroit accent, we've heard Southern Harris accent, we've heard Pittsburgh accent, we've heard Islander accent, and I think this is 6. I'm not sure who she is trying to be right here, but here it is.
Have empathy, man.
It is.
For the suffering of other people, have you no sense of purpose? Have you no empathy, man?
What is that?
For the suffering of other people, have you no sense of purpose?
Have you no sense of what is that? Is that Islander Jamaican?
I think
what is that?
I personally think she was going to try to hit the Chinese.
Man.
I think it was like half Chinese. half Mexican. She didn't know who exactly she was trying to target there.
This is, once again, the worst candidate in the history of this country. And we just wish that we had a good, solid candidate from the Democratic Party that we could actually talk about.
Well, and the funny thing is that all of these different people that are doing... have you no sympathy, man? But they are trying to come in and clean up all of her previous interviews. So,
There's people voting for that network, according to Trish. Glenn says, can you imagine her having access to any nuclear codes?
No, that was not a Brooklyn accent. That was a completely made up Kamala Harris. I don't even know, a holistically made up accent.
Well, she's doing all of these interviews now, and none of them are serious.
None.
Then she was on the late night TV saying that she's not Joe Biden. And I'm like, what? Who are you? You're on with Colbert, and Colbert's looking at her like, and he's a POS, but you look at him looking at her, and it's like, what the hell?
Well, and they know that she's doing horrible in these interviews, and so they're trying to come in and try to help her out and give her an opportunity to kind of take back what she had just said on a previous interview, and she's still not. And you can see them sitting there going, oh,
I remember a time when I respected Howard Stern for his journalistic, or I shouldn't say journalistic, but his broadcasting prowess, and how he did so great when he started and went through the whole realm of everything to get where he is. And now the man is just flat out evil. And this is the kind of crap that Democrats get away with, and we're just calling it out. I mean, he had Kamala on, and then he starts making up stuff, listen to him, and then acting like Republicans are racist. And then look who Howard Stern is. This guy, once again, another POS.
If he wins, God forbid, would you feel safe in this country? Would you stay in this country?
Safe. Howard, I'm doing everything I can to make sure he does not win.
What are these guys up to with mispronouncing your name? They act as if they can't say Kamala. Is it supposed to be an insult? Is it like Barack Hussein? Is it some sort of
It's the same
slur?
old tired playbook.
We're going to be playing Black Jeopardy. The brothers were complaining about the prizes. They said they didn't want fried chicken from Roy Rogers. They said they get enough fried chicken.
Here tonight, so it's all right. Ain't that right, you smelly?
I didn't write that.
Well, you is a smelly.
The Honorable Clarence Thomas.
Oh, oonga boonga. The black people are against me because they say that I'm not a real black man. I'm the one going to get lynched. Let me tell you something. We're going to be in trouble with the NAANP, the ECOC, and the EIEIOs. Well, I just love to smoke reefer.
Not gonna like that on these airwaves.
If he wins, God
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Howard Stern, the most racist talk show host in the country.
And why do we even care what he has to say?
We wouldn't, but here's why. Because Kamala Harris chose him to go on. That's why it is newsworthy. That's why people should know. She literally is sitting with a man who is the most racist radio talk show host that this country has. Racist as hell. And you see the evidence. It's not our opinion. We're about facts here, not feelings, facts, not fiction.
I mean, are they that
she chose
desperate?
to go
I know, that's what I'm
him.
saying. Who cares? Like, especially politically, the guy has so many issues, which he comes out and outwardly talks about.
And if he has millions of fans, it just shows how racist he is. The greatest thing is my conservative friends who used to like him don't like him anymore because they know how racist he is. And
I used to
the
like
Democrats
him.
are racist, and they prove it. And they say that Republicans are, but it's Democrats who are racist. They're the ones who have been really, really, really coming down hard on those African-American communities for so long, which is why Trump is kicking ass like no other white conservative has in modern history.
Well, his
so sad.
shtick,
sad.
His shtick is old though. It's old. It's washed up.
He's such a racist individual, and he needs to be called out for it. And because the national media is state-run liberal Marxist media, they won't call him out. They won't go back and do the things. The blackface and Jimmy Kimmel and all of those evil liberal hosts who refuse to be honest, straightforward, and fair with coverage need to be called out. And that's what we'll do here because we're willing to do it.
Yeah. Well, and why is it that they can do all of these things? Why is it that Howard Stern and, the Jimmy Kimmels and all of these other people, that they can get away with doing the blackface and they can get away with making comments, about fried chicken and
because
things
they know
like
they
that?
can get away with it with the black community.
Well,
where's the black community? If the black community was smart and tough, they would stand up to them. But I think the black community is afraid. Maybe they're afraid.
I mean,
I don't know.
because
maybe they're afraid.
Well, maybe they don't care either way. Maybe they think it's funny. Maybe they don't mind it as much, but the left, leaning media, they are always the first to jump on something when it is someone that's a conservative that does
because
something
conservatives
like that.
actually care about the black community, whereas liberals and Democrats and these people don't. The celebrities don't. They have nothing in common.
I mean, it would be all over. It would be on the front page
It's the same
of
thing
everything.
and that's the same when we had the conservative black pastors come in here saying, you know who's at fault? Our own black community who are lining their pockets, pastors who are getting money to tell people who to vote for, yet they don't care. And they'll meet their maker someday, Vic. They'll meet their maker saying that they're people of God when all they are is just taking handouts to lie to the black community. I feel bad for the black community, especially when you have racist people like Howard Stern who they vote for.
Yeah.
It's just I hope you have to wonder about an intelligence factor because you just get beat in with message after message after message. Eventually you have to smarten up, wake up, and then realize who is actually going to help you. So anyway, and Paul says, yes, Vic, I know I'm right because I've been in these communities and done stories. And you've worked in these communities as well. It's just sad, but that's why Howard Stern, it's just sickening to see these things that have been happening and going on.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And if people want to continue to get what they've always gotten, then go vote for a racist candidate like Kamala Harris. And she is racist because anybody that would go sit with other racists and laugh and agree with them means that they're racist as well. It is. You're a product of your company.
And that's a great point that you make, Vic, because, she's always talking about, whatever it is when she's a brown person or when she's a black person, whatever it is that she's self-identifying that day, she tries to make it sound, or a poor middle class, American girl. But whatever it is, she always tries to identify with these people. But I have never yet seen her in these different communities trying to make a difference, nor Joe Biden either. Nobody shows up. Nobody does anything for these communities. They go in, they talk a big game, and then they turn around, they close the door, and they never look back. That is why we cannot have Kamala Harris in the presidential seat. We absolutely cannot. You've got someone everybody wants to throw around, oh, well, Donald Trump, he can't relate because he's a millionaire and he this and he that. That man has done more for people. And the thing is, you have to dig for it. You have to look for it because he doesn't do it for the cameras. He doesn't do it for a pat on the back. He does it because that is who he is. He is taking care of people that have worked for him. He has done things for people, strangers that have taken the time to help him. He has done more for people than any of us will ever. I mean, it would take a long time to go back and dig through all of the things that Donald Trump has done for communities.
One thing we want to get into today before we get out of here is the devastation that's happened in Florida. Thoughts and prayers out there. We all have family, friends who live there, who've gone through things, who are dealing with things. We had a big show on Tuesday regarding weather manipulation, cloud seeding, those sorts of things. While there's no proof of that happening with these hurricanes, it's just very fascinating that you have these two hitting and going in different directions and looking different. And we've never, ever, ever seen anything like this hit Florida. I mean, Tropicana Field, the Tampa Rays play. Look at the video. The entire roof pulled off. I mean, literally pulled off of this massive facility in Florida. We have a couple different videos. You can show them, Joe, as we talk over them. That's an insight at what the stadium looks like after it went through. And then you see another video that will show you of the over top shot taken.
And just notice that the flag was still flying.
I saw that as well.
Point that out. That was awesome.
But then you see just what it does is this video gives you a look over the field in Tampa, just at some of the damage. I mean, look at that.
I know.
Insane.
I mean, it's in shreds.
What is happening in Florida with Milton now, right after Helene. And I guess what? I don't know if it's going to hit. There's another hurricane forming right now out in the ocean as well.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's not going to be the last that we're going to see. But God, I'm so glad that that so far, as of what we know right now, that more lives have not been taken. So thankful for that, because it could have really, really been bad. But the planning was on point. DeSantis did a great job. He got people out of there. And like I was telling my kids this morning, we all got up to see, what exactly happened, how bad it really was. And, you see videos like this of stadiums that are literally in shambles. But the main, thing that we got to be grateful for is that more lives weren't taken.
Well, the show that we did on Tuesday talked a lot about, and we showed you, and we broke it down, and we showed you evidence of cloud seeding. What is weather manipulation? We showed you sound bites with even Ginger Z from ABC saying, well, yes, this has been going on for decades and decades and decades. And even going as far as to saying, well, maybe it's not such a bad thing. And we showed you video after video of scientists showing, yes, weather manipulation, as you want to call it, cloud seeding has been going on. We showed you what happens from the tops of towers and how weather can be pushed a certain way with pulses. Also, when it comes to that, you actually had Biden. Yes, he emerged from his basement yesterday. There's no weather, cloud seeding. Obviously, the worst president in history of this country, the dumbest president in history of this country, the most corrupt president in the history of this country, coming up to say all that stuff yesterday. But even going back to 2016, our former CIA director even talked about it here. Just once again, we're about facts. We prove things around here. We just don't give opinions. We prove things. Once again, we prove things like true journalists. We prove things. Listen to this from 2016, former CIA director.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly. As promising as it may be, moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community. On the technical side, greenhouse gas emission reductions would still have to accompany SAI to address other climate change effects, such as ocean acidification, because SAI alone would not remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. Others might seize on SAI's benefits and back away from their commitment to carbon dioxide reductions. And as with other breakthrough technologies, global norms and standards are lacking to guide the deployment and implementation of SAI and other.
We can get out right there from that standpoint. Okay. It just goes to show it's interesting. I mean, whether you like it, whether you don't, whether you agree, whether you don't, there is evidence that, geoengineering, cloud seeding, these things have been happening since the 1940s.
And I think that I personally have a huge problem with this because it's humans trying to play God, if you will. So here we are, this little speck in space. I mean, this little tiny thing, and we think that us humans think that we are smart enough, good enough, and that we're going to be able to change our climate. It's something that has been around for millions and millions of years. I don't buy it. I think it's really negligent to think that we're going to be able to change it. I do. What do you think? I mean, do you think that we are really, yeah, we might be able to go and throw some chemtrails up and, cause it to, rain a little bit here and there, or, create some kind of precipitation. But if these bozos that are so, into, stopping climate change, if they really truly think that they're going to be able to stop or divert or, the process or put us on a different course, I think that's not, I don't think it could ever happen.
Well, we appreciate everybody listening to the show, watching the show. It goes by really, really fast. We just want to bring as much information to the table as possible. It's already been clearly proven that weather can be manipulated, and we've seen it. And we showed you the evidence on Tuesday. And for anybody that says that you can't, they've got their head in the sand, or it's become a political point and they just don't want to get into it. But it's been proven. And once again, we show you and we prove it to you all the time, just like we do with everything. And we're grateful for you. Thank you so much, guys, for watching our show today. Megan, great to have you back in the studio.
Thank you.
And once again, if you know of advertisers, let us know. This next commercial shows you how to get in contact with us, vic@canceltheshow.com. Plus, any donations help as well. We're grateful from that standpoint. Canceltheshow.com. Go to the donate page. Have a great day. For Pro Joe and Megan Marie Moret, I'm Vic Faust. Thanks to Alex Zimianek for coming in with Jay-Z Vacation Rental. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys later. Fans Presents partner with Cancel This Show with myself, Vic Faust, and my co-host,
Megan Marie. We're ranked in the top 10% globally.
Our show has reached over 1.68 million engaged listeners, and we continue to grow monthly.
Podcasting is one of the best ways to advertise
because it offers a highly engaged audience, SEO targeted reach,
and the ability to build a personal connection with listeners.
Dive into the dynamic world of cancel culture, politics, all current events, and the latest news with us.
It's the American taxpayers that are having to pay for all of this monkey business left and right.
Look at all of these pictures. They are using AI to generate fake photos, and we show you them. And Joe will show, we got a video of one, we've got certain pictures.
They were hiding the fact and trying to lie to the American people for months that Joe Biden was doing well.
This is Kamala. This is Joe Biden. It's Barack Obama. It's Jake Sullivan, all together doing anything and everything they can to strike back at Donald Trump because he continues to kick their ass.
If that doesn't make you mad enough to vote one way or another in this election, nothing will do it.
Get your company's voice heard, your brand recognized,
and the exposure you deserve.
Does your brand align with our mission?
Let's talk and make an impact together.